Good morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Media, doing our live talk program covering motivation on your Monday morning rise and shine. And this Monday morning here, as we do our motivation, we're looking at strive to overcome. Strive to overcome is our motivational talk for this Monday morning here. So welcome again to our live talk program as we do this talk here this morning. Now we'll begin with a short prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, I pray, dear Lord, that you may bless us as we study and talk together. May you inspire us, dear Lord, from your word and from the thoughts of my mind. May you bless us, dear Father, as we start this day off. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So thanks again for joining me this Monday morning here as we begin our work week. And it's kind of a work vacation week. So for those of you who are off, God bless you. For the rest of you, thanks for joining me here so we can motivate you to work hard and probably play hard tomorrow. So this morning here, our talk for this morning is strive to be an overcomer. Strive to be an overcomer is what we're talking about here this morning. And that's important for us to strive. You know, we want to be an overcomer, but since we have not closed out our life's record, we want to be able to strive. We want to be able to continue trying to be an overcomer. And so this morning here, I'm encouraging you to strive to be an overcomer because the other options are not good. And surely you have been to much funeral or been to much events where it is kind of a summation of a person's life, whether there's a basic tragic thing that happened or something happened along the way, and you look at the person's life and it does not spell somebody that is overcoming their weaknesses and overcoming the problems of this life. So here I want to encourage you this morning to make an effort to win some battles in your life and some situations or weaknesses that are hampering you or not getting you to get to the place that you need to be at. So strive to be an overcomer. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22 through 27, read these words. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22 through 27. It says, "To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some." So here, Paul here in his experience with preaching the gospel said that whatever he's doing, he tried to conform, contort, do whatever it is to reach people. He tried to get into their mindset, get into their mental space, get into their lifestyle space, become part of them, one with them, so that he can reach them. So he's taking his work, the gospel work that he's doing, and he's taking it very serious. And he strives and he makes an effort to go to the utmost to be able to win. And that's what he does here. So he says, "To the weak I became weak." And this is taking one's work and one's work to a serious level. This is not talking about compromising. This is not talking about doing what is wrong. He's just simply saying that he's willing to come down to whatever level or rise to whatever level in order to bless the person wherever they're at. And he continues here in verse 23, "And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partakers thereof with you." So he's saying, what I'm preaching is what I'm living by. If I say, Christ gave it all to save me, and I'm teaching you to give it all for your own salvation, he's saying, look, I am myself doing the same thing. I'm giving it all, not only to give you the gospel, but for my own personal experience. And we can see this in verse 24. "Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain. So run that ye may obtain." And so everybody's running in this race, but only one receiveth the prize. And so he's saying here, when you're running to receive that prize, really run to receive the prize. Don't just be running in a serious way that you might obtain. And when you obtain, you will see that it was worth the running. It was worth going hard. And so he says, go hard at it. But he says you must run it to obtain the prize. And he clarifies more, because when we think about overcoming or think about being a winner in this life, we could quickly start to think in our minds that we become winners by just winning. All that matters is the winning. And if you talk to most people in our lives, in our world, and that we know, the idea is that you do whatever it takes to win because the intention is to win. And we applaud winners. You can see in our society, we applaud a person that makes from rag to riches without often considering this vital important factor of how did the person get from rag to riches? Because if winning is the only goal, then basically a person that cheats to win is a winner. But you would normally say a person that cheats to win is a loser because they didn't do it fair and square. They didn't do it in the right way. They cheated to get to where they need to get to. And so here, you know, you want to be able to run the race, but you want to be able to consider, well, is winning the only thing? Because again, you could win, but you lost because you cheated. So we normally wouldn't say that a person is a cheater, is a person that is a winner. So it continues here that every man that strives for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. So everyone that strives for the mastery is temperate in all things. And so normally when you're striving to win, you're normally are willing to sacrifice alcohol, sacrifice junk food. You don't want to waste your exercise. You don't want to waste the practice that you're doing to be able to get to the level that you need to get to. So everyone that's running a race that is just a race to win a trophy, to win a medal, will put aside anything that they can so that they can have an edge to beat out the competition. So he's saying here, that's normal. So if you're in a race for life, and it's all about your lives, today so many people talk about legacy. They want to leave a legacy. And the problem with that is that they're willing to leave a legacy. But what is that legacy? What is it that they're trying to accomplish? And how are they building that legacy? Because a person can leave a legacy, and yet they got the legacy by unfair means. I remember a few years back, there was this gentleman who had done stock, and he had made millions and millions of dollars, but it came out that he had defrauded the investors. And he had basically used the money to make a legacy for himself. He had invested the money in to build a wing of a hospital here in New Jersey. And so he would have as his name on the hospitals. And I remember going to the hospital and hearing his name, because if you're going to visit somebody in the site that he's at, they'll tell you to go and they'll give the last name of his last name. But the reality was that says he defrauded, he stole from people. And so what was his legacy? His legacy was supposed to be, look, he was such a good person that he built a hospital, but the hospital was built upon or a wing of a hospital, but it was built on stolen money. So if you build a hospital on stolen money, yes, you have a legacy, but the legacy you have is a legacy basically of theft. And that was a legacy, and he actually went to prison. And he went to prison for it. So what was the point there of you stealing money to build? So you strive, you made an effort, you work hard, you sacrificed a lot. He won, so to speak, but at the end it really was revealed that he didn't win because he didn't do anything any better than anyone that you'll be classified as a common thief or a common person that's there doing all kind of illegal activity to basically be rich. So when we talk about striving to be an overcomer, we're not just talking about a person that is winning, and basically winning does not contemplate any moral activity, because you can't win and win by cheating and say you really win. So this is why I always say life is very strange, because you could have a person that they were honest, they work real hard, they never stole from anybody, they never cheated from anybody, and they never did anything that was immoral, and they probably end with life with a regular bread and butter house. They have somebody for retirement. They have a little bit of things that they have in this life, but they work hard for it. And somebody was saying, well, they're not as successful because they just have a regular life. And the person now that is a multi-millionaire is more successful. And then you check out the person that they're talking about, and you realize that the person they're talking about, say they were a musician, and they basically sing music that was basically the destruction, or it helped to destroy. Say, for instance, I always use a good example, the black community. The black community celebrate these monsters that are called rappers. And at the end of the day, the community suffer because these evildoers, they sing songs that basically demoralize young men and cause them to live a worthless life, or help them, give them a philosophy, and continue to put forward this philosophy of the ghetto to live a worthless life. But they become millionaires. So they won, but how did they win? They did not win in a proper way. They win in a moral way. And so morality has to be part of winning. If a person is a jerk, or a person, as they say, is a dirtbag, a person is a con man, a person is basically a pest, and they're winning, well, it's not really winning. It's a facade of winning, because morality and winning can't be separated. So he says here, every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. In verse 26, I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beateth the air, but I keep under my body, and bring it into subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So he's saying, look, when I preach to others, when I share the gospel to others, when I try to bless others, I don't want to be a castaway. So I'm basically want to be able to be in a situation where I'm striving and being temperate in all things. And when I read this text here about temperate in all things, it brings me to a different level when it comes on to what I would say when it comes on to what it takes, or what's true success is. Because when we are striving, the whole man becomes part of the strive. It's not just what you have in a bank account, it's who you are as a person, is how you're doing health wise. Because as you know, there's many times a person is making an effort to become significant, become successful in this life, and their health fail. They totally crash and burn health wise, and they were not able to complete the task or the goals that they had involved, or they had set before them. So that's important. Temperate in all things. It doesn't say that you have to just gain mastery over, say, your exercise. You have to gain mastery over how you eat, the way you sleep, your thinking. Because many times, some sin is problematic in the sense that if a person have self control over their thoughts, they'll never be temperate in all things. So their minds just run in all kind of channels. They're perverted, corrupt minds, and they can't maintain basically or stop certain thoughts. Temperate in all things would, in other words, it would be self-controlled in all things. So that means when a sick thought, as a temptation, a weakness. So if a person have an addiction and they can't control the addiction because they can't control their thoughts or their desires, they are not self-controlled. They cannot exercise self-control in all things. So although they might be excellent at, say, if they're artists, but they have no self-control, they end up getting arrested because they probably drive their car and plunge it into somebody and kill somebody, and then their career is over because they're going to prison because they were not temperate in all things. So that's how temperate in all things work. So when we're talking about overcoming, we're talking about fighting the battle of life on multiple fronts. It's not just on what you would call fighting the battle of life on say our careers or on health, or say if a person is into fitness, but is into even your thoughts, the way you eat, the way you sleep. You're temperate in all things. So that's important, and when you consider that, and as we continue plugging away here, I'm going to try to look at the broader concept of being temperate in all things. So pardon me there. So Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 4. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 4. So read this with me here. And look at this idea here as we talk about temperate in all things. Because as you know, one thing with life, you can either be mentally sick, spiritually sick, or physically sick, and that will take you out. And normally, a lot of that, 85% of the problems we're facing and dealing with, are simple problems that has to do with how we are when it comes down to self-control. If you can't control your thoughts, if you can't control what you eat, the way you sleep, what you say, your lifestyle practices, your ability to get up and go, because sometimes get up and go could mean you just need to get up and go exercise, and you don't have the motivation to do it. The Bible said temperate in all things. Well, listen to this now in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 through 4. It says, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us." So think about that. He's saying, seeing that we encompass with so great a cloud of witness. One of the things that is important to consider when you read the Bible and you think about the stories of history that people look at as inspiring stories are always stories of people that overcome, are always stories of people that against great odds, against great difficulty, they surmount those difficulties and they win. Basically, when you read the Bible, you read history, it normally is a story of people that win. Even if it's a story about different leaders, military leaders, you would normally say it's the military leaders that won. It's not the military leaders that lost. But remember, we take it at another step, because we don't say winning is not just the only aim in life. It's also how you win. Think that and keep that in mind. So notice he says that let us lay aside every weight, because a weight can be something that is holding you down and holding you back. So a simple weight could mean you want to be debt free, but you have a problem with window shopping. You like to go to the mall and you walk around and then you actually spend, but you want to be debt free. So, window shopping and shopping all the time would be go against trying to be debt free, because you can't control your outflow. So you can't be able to control the amount of debt that you basically heap up. It's the same thing if somebody say, well, I want to be successful in my career, but they can't control the amount of food they eat. Remember, temperate in all things. So they can't lay aside the weight. Remember, in all things. And so the weight holds them back, because, again, they can't maintain health. You can't maintain health. You can't basically work as hard and put the time in. And you can't work with the clarity of mind and the agility that you need to work with. Same thing if it comes on to somebody say, I want to be successful. And I said, well, if you want to be successful, you have to lay aside that marijuana. And they'll be like, no, I can't be. How are you going to be successful? You're taking a Nervine. Every day you take something that sedate the nerves. Or you're going to be motivated and inspired, but you're taking something that basically kill every nerve in the body and make you slow. So again, the person, yeah, but I want to be able to be a winner. How are you going to be a winner while you're smoking something that's going to cause you to be a loser? So that's the problem with it. So simply the Bible says, lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily beset us. Whatever that sin that beset us, we all have a weakness when it comes to selfishness or pride or whatever, and we have to deal with that. But also you can look at this as whatever sin that beset you. And normally you can tell what sin that beset you by two ways. Whatever bad habits you cultivate in your personal life as you get older, and also whatever bad habits your family have. Because a lot of bad habits are passed down either through the blood or through nurturing from our parents and our, aunts, uncles, cousins, so forth. So you want to be able to deal with that, because in life, if you want to overcome, you have to strive, but you have to know what you're striving against and what is it you're trying to win. So verse 2 says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. So you think about Christ as a person running the race, being running a race, and the race that he's running, he knows what the prize is, but in order for him to win that race, he has to literally endure. He has to endure. So there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some crosses to bear, or a cross to bear. He's going to have to despise the shame, because again, if you are dealing with people who have no self-control and they want it all today, and you don't want it all today, you have to go through some pain. You have to deal with some crosses, because you have to sacrifice. Think about the amount of persons that you've seen where a person decide, I want to be a doctor. And another person think, I want to finish high school and I want to go work and do a minimum wage job. And the doctor now has probably 7, 8 years of suffering that he has to go through if they're not being bankrolled by their parents, so to speak. But they still have to do the schoolwork. The other person can start partying and working and being a goofball immediately. And that's probably good for some people. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. I'm convinced of that. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. But I'm just giving it as an example. Don't take it too harsh. If it's on, I'm just want to get the lesson. I'm telling you. So you see this person now. They're goofing off and whatever. They just can't wait to finish and start working a minimum wage job. They don't even say, look, which I tell everybody, you finish high school. If unless you didn't get a trade where you finish high school, keep it in mind. Do whatever you can. Go get a trade, even if you go get a little career, even if it's just a career where you're working as assisting somebody that has a trade. Do something, but just don't say, I'm gonna get a minimum wage job. If you do that, well, that's on you. So the person now did not put in the hard work, and they say, I can't do all of that. But then now, when a person comes out to be a doctor that's making a certain amount of money within a year or so, the person that basically decided that they weren't going to do that hard work because both of them are working. One just decided to keep studying longer. One couldn't wait to exhale. The person that decided to do the minimum wage job cannot be covetous of the person who decided to run a longer race. Because while another person was enjoying themselves, the other person was, working hard and keeping their head to the plow. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes you have to look at it that when you're striving to win, to overcome, you sometimes have to go through some shame. You have to go through some embarrassment. You have to watch other people go into restaurants while you go home and get some ketchup or some butter and butter your bread. The last 2 slices you have and eat it, and that's dinner. And then you stay hungry until the next day. That's part of the experience. And as you go through that, somebody like, how you put yourself through that? Because I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm striving to get somewhere, and I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna make the effort. Sorry, there. So, so looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher for faith, ooh, for the joy that was set before him. So it was a joy. In other words, you know the end product, and you know the pain that you have to go through for the victory. And so you say, I want to win. But winning is not easy because you have obstacles. You have your mind to deal with. And your mind sometimes becomes your worst enemy, and you have to fight mentally. You have your old spirit when they talk about your attitude to deal with, how motivated you are. Because again, you start having thoughts, and thoughts make you feel down. You feel down, you feel like you don't want to strive anymore. So you have that to deal with. Then you have the body to deal with because the body sometimes just don't want to push as hard as you want it. Mentally, you say, I'm going to do this, and you start in the body like, I ain't going where you want me to go. I ain't doing what you want me to do. So then you have to be like, what am I going to do? For me, in a practical sense, what I do, when it come onto the body, I start going raw. I start juicing. I start taking the herbs. I start trying to do exercise, even if it's just light exercise, try to get the body to cooperate. Because the body will start to go weak on you, so to speak. And you're pressing. I learned that it's just best, as I've said here before, sometimes to just do a full day's labor and just get your sleep, instead of trying to do overtime and whatever, just consistently try to get more out of each hour of labor by having the most energy, the most concentration, the most inspiration. And it's better for me to go for 8 hours and no more pumped and hyped than try to go for 10 and the next day I can't even go for 4 because I'm so drained. Understand that the body's working against you. We go to the Bible because the Bible gets your spirit right. It's the Bible is a spiritual book. It gets your attitude, so to speak, right. Also, for the mental fight, you got to fight negative thoughts. You got to know that says, look, it's a shame, but they might see it as a shame, but I'm trying to get somewhere, so I'm not worried about that. That's why there's not a lot of champions in this world. People are cheaters to get where they need to get to. And it's set down at the right hand of the throne of God. He got where he need to get to. You can get where you need to get to. You have to know that you have to fight these battles. Verse 3, for considering him that endures such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your mind. Think about it. People will contradict you while you're trying to succeed, even for them. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to sacrifice something. You're trying to have some self-control, some self-discipline to get somewhere. And if you succeed, the people that are around you will benefit. And sometimes the persons that are around you, the persons that are discouraging you. Think about with Christ's situation. He's dying for the sins of the world, but as he's dying for people, the people that are around him are the people that are contradicting him, are telling him, don't do it. Peter, even the closest Peter person to him, is discouraging him. And so you see the concept. You're trying to bless humanity, bless yourself, bless your family. And you're trying to create a product. You're trying to be successful in your job so you can go beyond paying your bills to where you can invest and do something phenomenal in this world. And sometimes the person that you're going to bless the most with the sacrifice you're making is telling you not to do it. Sinners are contradictory. And think about it. You go to the person you're trying to preach the gospel, and the person you're going to try to preach the gospel is being rude to you, or is being a jerk or a foolish person to you and acting like a fool. You're trying to bless them to make their life better, and they're working against you. Sinners contradict themselves. So you have to mentally be tough to work through all of that in order to be a winner, in order to be an overcomer, in order to a person that's going to win the race of life. And verse 4 says, ye have not resist unto bloodshed, striving against sin. So Christ was so hard that even at the pain of death and literally suffering at the cross, he'd be like, I'm going to win for these people. I'm going to bless them. That's your attitude that you have to take, because sometimes it's going to be all to do with you. Because remember, if you don't do it, nobody else will do it. If you decide this is important, I'm going to do this for the blessing of those in my family, for myself, or whatever. If you don't do it, nobody else will do it, because that's why it's not getting done. I see oftentimes situation comes up and a person like, I'm discouraged. Why they discouraged? Because I'm trying to do this thing and I'm not getting the support. And I have to remind the person, think about it. It wasn't getting done before you came along. If you don't do it, it's not going to get done. Then that tells me, that says, ain't nobody's going to encourage you, because if they're encouraging you, probably they would have done it. It's for you to get your motivation and say, I'm going to get this thing done. I'm going to run in this race and I'm going to win this race. I'm going to beat this thing. And you get beat. And then when you beat it, you realize probably you're the only one that decided to beat it. Think about any record in this life. Think about any problem in this life. Other people saw the problem, but nobody was willing to say, if it costs me my blood, I'm going to do it. But somebody often come along in history, and normally we say these are the great men of history. We read about them in history. We read about them in the Bible. And they decide that, you know what happened? I'm not going to sit here and watch this failure continues. I'm going to strive. I'm going to make an effort, and I'm going to push forward. You want to be that person. And when you be that person, you will be blessed. Now, a few thoughts I want to take you to when I analyze this next passage of scripture. The importance now, I want to talk about the three different concepts here. The importance of overcoming with morality. So, there, as I said to you, a person that got out of the ghetto, but basically gangbang, rob, steal, whatever, to get out. You say, yeah, they get out. They're doing financially well for themselves. But that's not truly winning. That's being a loser in all aspects of life. Also, when you think about this concept of persecutors are cheaters and losers, sore losers. Because normally you think about history, about how there's been so many wars when it comes over to religion. And how many times people have to defend themselves or being killed by people who are the losers. So that brings you the idea then that often persecutors are losers. A person who can't win you, so they decide to cheat. They decide to do something, whether it be like a big story that was in the news a few years back, where you have people deflating the ball of the opposition team in order to make them lose. You say, yeah, the person is a win, the person won, but, well, how did they win? They win by cheating. Same, you have a person decide that everybody's running the race and they're running naturally, and this person decide to take drugs. And they win. And they're up on the podium and they're like, oh, look at me, I won. And you would say, but yeah, you won, but you didn't win by the rule. You didn't run by the rule. So and you're a winner, but it's a winner with a quote unquote. You're not a true winner. You're a kind of a fake winner. So what you consider that. And then the last thing I want to consider is that winning is not always the last man standing or the person who had to do what they had to do to survive or keep their job or his job. So what do you think about that? Because I'm sure you've been in a situation where there's somebody that is a sellout, that they did everything to keep their job and they kept their job, but everybody has lost their job. And they say, oh, I won. So think about that because I won. Because I've never seen a situation in life where a person like that, long term wise, they lose. But they'll think, oh yeah, but I sell everybody out and I won. So we want to keep that in mind because a person could say, oh yeah, I'm striving to win. But how? Have you lost your integrity? Are you thinking winning is so important that you have no morality that you can cheat people? Well, that's not winning because you didn't really win. You cheated. It's a sleight of hand. It's a deception. And normally we don't look at people like that in history and look back at the people that we know in our personal lives and say they won. We normally say, yeah, they have material possession, but that's all they have. But they have no conscience and they have no personality. And so you don't respect that. Hebrews 11, verse 33 through 40. Hebrews 11, verse 33 to 40 says, who through faith subdued kingdoms and wrought righteousness and obtained promises, stop the mouth of lions. So this is talking about the people of faith in the Bible and how they were so successful. As again, when you read the Bible is not a story. It's a story of winners and losers, but the heroes in the Bible are stories of the people who won. The heroes in histories are the stories of the people who won and won right. They didn't won cheating, but they won. We normally look at those who won, but they won cheating, and we say normally these are the losers. They might won, but you don't respect them. You say, boy, this is scummy. So he's saying here, these are some of the people that in the past stop the mouth of lions. This would be like David or primarily like Samson. Quench the violent fires, escape the edge of the sword. Out of weakness were made strong. Wax valiantly in flight and turn to flight the armies of the alien. You think about what truly constitutes winning. It's primarily not so much from a person who won win when they were handed winnings. So if you were born and you're born a millionaire, just put it that way, you're born a millionaire. You're born and you inherit $1 million. If you win it and you're looked upon as a winner, it might depend. It might depend if, say a person was given $1 million and they die and they end their life and they still have $1 million. You would say, well, I guess that was good. They maintained $1 million. But normally you would say that's a winner. You would just say that's a person that figured out how to survive. But even if a person was born and they're born a millionaire and they died a multi-millionaire, you say, well, they did well for themselves because they multiplied it. So you say they strive and, they didn't burn the money, they actually grew the money. That's not a bad thing. But also you would say if a person was born in abject poverty and they strive, they made it, they basically walked from Central America into America, and now they're dying with, a decent set of money, that not even $1 million, they send some money, they send the kids to school and they just work hard and they just busted their whatever and they made it. You say, God bless them, they did well. This guy's a winner. This guy's probably a bigger winner than people who are running nations. You get what I'm saying here? Because just the odds that they go against, you respect that, and you read those stories and you be like, you're just motivated, inspired, you even cry over it because you just think, how could they fight so hard? While there's people who are born, millionaires that are killing themselves. They just give up. They just fail at life. You say, wow. You read about stories about people striving, leaving, Africa, walking across deserts, going on a ship, risking being raped, risking being killed, robbed, make it to Europe, work hard, get a little apartment, get a little bit of house, and they're doing okay for themselves. You think, wow. And you have people in those places killing themselves, can't even want to live off welfare and stuff like that, unproductive, drinking themselves, to their grave, and you say, well, that person is a failure. You don't want to read about that person who could have had it all but live a bum life and make no effort. And you have somebody that will literally walk across the desert, slip across the border in America, come and end up owning a business, doing a job, working two, three jobs, trying to make ends meet. And you have people who are already here in America, living in the ghetto, unemployed, bang, gang, banging, shooting each other. You're thinking, wow, I don't want to read about these people. You know, they can almost stay over there and try to continue to try to wipe themselves out. You look at it differently because you're looking at the level of effort the person is taking, and that motivates you. So to me, it doesn't matter if the person is born a multi-millionaire or the person is born basically one meal away from starving to death. The point of life is that if a person is willing to say, you know what, Ben, I don't care what my situation is, I'm going to make it out of this. I'm going to strive. That's where you need to be. And that's how you need to take on life. I don't believe in people should be bums and to be worthless. I believe that you fight with all your might, whatever situation it is. I don't care if you were born rich or you're born poor. A person is not willing to press hard and to multiply what they have, even if they have millions of dollars. That to me is just a person that, what's the point of life? Because life is about striving. The moment you come out, well, no, from conception, you're growing. And when you stop growing physically, you just need to start growing, personality wise, character wise, life wise. What are you doing? What are you striving to accomplish today? This is what I want to encourage you. Press hard. And again, if you press hard all week and next week you feel like you don't want to press anymore, come back again and listen to me on Revive Reform Radio Monday morning or Monday through Fridays. But Mondays I always do motivation because I want you to be successful. I just don't believe that people should be so depressed and beaten down, especially when they have advantages and opportunities that others don't have. And then they're going to be jealous. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people who are born in this empire have all kind of opportunities that others don't have. Somebody said, but if you're born in this empire, that all persons are born equal in this empire. Well, it doesn't matter because there's people who are striving to get into this empire and will work how many jobs and do hard labor to make it, who don't have the opportunity of even born in the empire. So I just think, like, who cares what the situation is? Man, give me a good story by telling me that your situation was horrible and you just basically have to chew on wood in order for you to get food so that you can make it in this life. And then I'll tell you, well, use some of that money to go fix your teeth because you might damage them. Now, in verse 35, women received their dead raised to life, and others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. Notice here, people being tortured and then be like, I'll take it, but I ain't going to give up my integrity. That's what I'm talking about. That's where we need to be at. And that's why I say, strive to be an overcomer. Because I strive for this. My life record is not closed. Your life record is not closed. But what we can say is that says we need to strive because we need to be a part of the hardcore in this life. Because that's make life worth living. People say, what's the aim of this life? The aim of this life is to be hardcore. That's the aim of this life. I don't want to die a mamby-pamby life. I don't want to die, a weakling. I want to die overcoming my difficulties, overcoming the obstacles that are placed in my way. That's all I want to die. I prefer die trying. I really believe in this. And it says here, verse 36, and others have trial of cruel mocking and of scourging, yea, moreover of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, and that's okay. They were sawn asunder, were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskin and goatskin, being destitute, afflicted, tormented. Notice that. Winning against great odds. What are the odds you're facing? What are the excuses you're giving? Read this and understand that there's people who, even they have no hope of deliverance. They didn't have no hope of being the last man standing. They didn't have no hope of being a person that's going to walk out of prison. But they died with their integrity and they won. The losers were the ones that were keeping them in prison. And they died winners. Somebody say, how could they die winners? That is twisted thinking. No, it's not. Sensible thinking. You better die with your integrity. That's great. Pardon me there. So you better die with your integrity. I don't care what a person say. A person say, well, the person that was locked up, say, in Guantanamo Bay and tortured by the President Bush regime, were the losers. Probably they were losers in the sense of what they did to get there, if they really got there, the way they accused them. But again, if you're in a similar situation and you were the person that was standing for morality and standing for what's right, and they framed you and put you there, die a winner. Because at least I can say, you know what happened? You die with your integrity. The losers are the people who immorally put you there. Because remember, as I was talking about, the persecutors are the losers. They're the sore losers. Think about persecution. Persecution normally arises because a person says preaching and teaching, and the evildoers can't get around the preaching and teaching of the person. So what they think to do is to physically do harm to the person. Who won? The person that had the harm done to them. Because since they couldn't win and they lost the teaching battle, so to speak, and the preaching battle, they lost because truth wasn't on their side. They didn't give respect and credence to truth, and false with the lies were on their side. And because they're sore losers, they decide to persecute, physically do harm to the person. This is why the prophets were often viewed as people that walked around in sheep skin or goat skin. This is why when they saw John the Baptist, say, oh, John the Baptist was a prophet, because John the Baptist was dressed in leather and girdle. His manner of dress was of somebody that was not part of the upper echelon of society. He wasn't part of the people that was living in elegance. So he looked that way. And because he was not part of the mainline. You think about the mainline pastors today. If you were living in the time of Elijah, who would you go to hear the gospel preach? Somebody that is like the people that are from the elegance class, or somebody that is dressed in leather and girdle. You see, and this is why so many simpletons and foolish people pack these churches and by the thousands. And that's why you call them mega churches. They go to hear the people that are in soft clothing, not the people that dress like Christ's disciples, not your lowly fishermen. So when you understand the importance. The Bible is a story of those who overcome. That's the heroes in the Bible. And we celebrate heroes. And I'm encouraging you, get this concept in your mind. You need to be a hero. You need to be a person who overcome against your odds, because your odds and your set of obstacles are different from mine. But whatever your odds are, whatever the obstacles you have to face, you need to know that you can overcome them, and you need to overcome them, because it's about the race of life. If you don't overcome them, then they will overcome you and often kill you early. Think about the amount of people that will die today because they were overcome by drugs. They were overcome by alcohol. They were overcome by, deep fried food, and they die of some heart attack and some diabetes or something, because they were overcome by their appetite. They were overcome by a bad mind. They went out and probably got into an argument and got shot or stabbed, and they die young. And that was their obstacle. Temperate or self-control in all things. In Revelation chapter 3, verse 20 through 22, Revelation chapter 3, verse 20 through 22 said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. This is the overcomer speaking to us, those of us who need to overcome. If any man if any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. So when we talk about being Christians, we're not talking about being failures and losers in this life. We're talking about following him who is the number one victor in this life. People question that, but it's beyond question. If you think about Christ from a point of view of a secular point of view, not a point of view of just say spiritual, secular, Christ is the most important figure in the world, period. The modern world is shaped by the philosophies of Christ. It's the most important figure. So when we talk about it, how can a person that die a death of the death of the cross, be the most important figure in the world? It tells you. This is why Christ, when he comes in Revelation 3, verse 21, he says, I want to come with you and I want to hang with you, so to speak. I want to get close to you. When we follow Christ, we're following the number one person that went up against odds, great odds, and won. Remember, in the concept of the art of war, is sometimes how you make the enemy lose the war. You make the enemy look terrible, horrible. And this is why they have these ploys when they do wars. And so Christ won because he whipped the devil at his game. Made him look bad. Verse 21. To him that overcome will I grant to sit with me on my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father on his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the church. So he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the church. Remember, the aim is to overcome. We're called to be overcomers. Christ called us to be winners. We're not supposed to be losers. The Christian is not supposed to be beaten down by their sin permanently. You think about it, great aim of the Lord is to give us victory over iniquity. What is iniquity? Long-term sin. Sin that we're stuck in, where we're stuck year in, year out, and we can't overcome. What sin are you stuck in? You need to know this for yourself personally. What is the sin that you have that you just can't whip? You can't beat. You're not able to overcome it. It's constantly overcoming you. Don't think about all the other stuff. You see, you don't worry about things that are not in front of you. Remember, David said in the Bible, he says, my sin is ever before me. You know what you need to overcome today. You know what you need to overcome yesterday. And you know what the struggles that you're going to face tomorrow. Now somebody say, but I have all kind of weakness. Don't worry about all the type of weakness you have. Worry about the one that is ever before you. Worry about the one that seems to be always plaguing you. And you say, today, I'm going to give this sin to Jesus. I'm going to ask him for power. I'm going to fight this battle. That's going to be your battle. Now somebody could say, well, we all have different points that we're weak at. Yeah, but there's certain points that we're so weak at because they're the thing that we need to get the victory over. Gain that victory. When you gain that one victory, it'll give you an opportunity to gain others. As I say, think about how many people today that they will die today. And it's simply they die today because they cannot abstain from drugs. They cannot abstain from alcohol. They cannot abstain from an evil mind, from something that is plaguing them mentally or spiritually, socially, and it's going to become their death nail. You don't want to be that person. You want to be that person. So you know what happened today? I'm going to overcome this thing. And so that's why, we walk the walk that we walk, because we get up every day and we fight the battles of life. Matthew chapter 24, verse 44 through 51. Therefore ye also are ready, for in such an hour as you think the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord had made ruler over his house, to give them meat in due season? So think about it. I view this as part of my overcoming aim. We're living in a time where this text is being fulfilled, where you go to most churches, you go most places, and you're really not getting any serious word. The word of God is not really being preached. It's basically comedians and people who are, prosperity gospel preachers today. And so I see that's part of my aim is to feed people, to give people a solid, deep word that's going to work a deep rooted experience in their life so they can overcome sin. So he continues saying, blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. But and if that evil servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servant, he is failing, and eat and drink with the drunken, he is failing. The Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So you can see, notice here, there's two outline for us. One is the outline of what will happen to the person that overcomes and is a blessing to his fellow human beings. The other is the story of the fellow servant who started to become a persecutor, attack his fellow servants, and also started to eat and drink with a drunken. He's lost self-control. He is a persecutor and a person that has no self-control. So when the Lord comes, he's going to look for him. When he's not aware, he's going to grab him, and he's going to take him, and he's going to give him his portion with the hypocrites. Now, this person was faithful at one point, and they became one with the hypocrites. So he says, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When you understand this, you understand simply what's going on. We have victories to gain. We have challenges that we have to overcome. We have obstacles that are in our way. We cannot idly sit by and wasting so much of our time on entertainment, wasting so much of our time on laziness. We have to get up and get about our master's business, which is our business. The Lord doesn't ask us to overcome anything that is not for our positive interest. If you need to overcome drugs, if you need to overcome alcohol, if you need to overcome a bad mind, if you need to overcome, your surrounding, if you're in an area that you need to get out, you need to go find a part-time job, go back to school, get a career, get a trade, and work your way out of a tough community so that you can live, so that you don't have your children being subjected to bullets flying in the air. You have to know what your obstacles are, or what your obstacle is, and you got to fight that battle. Don't be like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and play dead. No, you're not gonna do that. In First Samuel chapter 23, verse 13 and 14, First Samuel chapter 23, verse 14 and 13 and 14. It says, Then David and his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah, and went whithersoever they could go. And it was told Saul that David was escaped from Keilah, and he forbore to go forth. And David abode in the wilderness in strongholds, and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God delivered him out of not into his hand. So when you think about this, what we just read, read this quickly because for the sake of time, I won't be able to go too much into some of the stories of David, although they're just beautiful to read because we see David as a person, as an overcomer. Think about that with me here, David being an overcomer. And as you think about the concept of David being an overcomer, how fascinating it is that David, who himself an overcomer, started to attract men with him who were overcomers. And it get to a point where you have 600 hardcore men. These were not whiners and complainers. The worst thing to be able to do running the battle of life with whiners and complainers. Because I'm going to tell you, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. And when you're having a struggle of life, note well people around you, understand. When you have whiners and complainers around you, you will have a harder time. In fact, you'll have an impossible of time. You remember the story with Gideon. The Lord had to eliminate the weaklings, the cowards, those who are fearful and those who are whiners and complainers, and only gave him 300 men. Somebody said, why would you give 300 men? It's impossible to win a war with 300 men. It is true, but I'm going to tell you, it's impossible to win a war with 20,000 whiners and complainers. Impossible. Keep that in mind. So as you're struggling in life, what it is, you're going to deal with a situation and everything can go wrong, will go wrong. There will be disappointments, there will be setbacks, there will be obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. And when you have whiners and complainers around you, they're going to whine to you and complain to you the obvious. They're going to whine to you and they're going to complain to you the obvious. It's going to make your life more difficult because the whiners and complainers is going to tell you the obvious. Like, what are you telling me? Don't you think I don't know that I'm looking at the impossibility here? You think I don't know that if I'm obstacle is drugs or alcohol or sensuality or anything that it's going to be a difficult thing for me to overcome? Don't tell me the obvious. Unless you're just telling me that because the next word out of your mouth is that we're going to whip this obvious. We're going to overcome it. Or here's the idea how we're going to whip this thing. Or let's pray. Let's seek the Lord. Because I'm going to tell you, you're going to have obstacles. And here, but David men were not mamby-pamby here. They were not whiners and complainers. Because what they did, they went into a hardcore place. And somebody could say, man, David, you're going to take me into this hardcore place. They would be like, get out of here. You can't roll with me. You got to be hard. And later on, you remember the story of David, that became a blessing to him because when now Absalom later on went after him to kill him, he departed the city and he went back into the wilderness. He went back to where him and his men were comfortable defending themselves. And that became the downfall of Absalom. Because David men were hardcore. They knew what it was. They knew how it was to survive in a harsh environment. So sometime in order, remember we talked earlier about the spies and the shame. Sometime in order for you to get to where you need to be, you got to develop in the wilderness. You got to develop in the holes. You got to be able to develop where people are throwing fiery darts at you. And you're trying to develop your skill while ducking and, getting out of the way of fiery darts. And that's how you develop, so that become hard. So that even when you're used to a little luxury, if you have to go back to the wilderness, I know how to do this because I've been there, done that. that becomes your blessing. Understand that and know that in this life, you're going to face with obstacles. Things are going to go wrong. Just think about the people that you have around you. Whiners and complainers going to be tell you things have gone wrong. Well, hello, you think I don't have an eye to see and ear to ear that things have gone wrong? What I want to know is I want to know, can the Lord deliver me? And when the Lord deliver you, you will be blessed. I'm going to take this thought here because I'm running out of time. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1 through 12, is a whole passage of scripture that I'm not going to be able to read through, that deals with this idea here. And, read this in your own time. But this talks about the story of the children of Israel and how the children of Israel's story is important to us. People wonder why you read the Bible, because sometimes people miss the concept of the Bible. They get caught up with the miracles and stuff like that. And those are true, but they can't believe because they don't understand that God works miracles when man can't do anything else. He runs out of option. That's why he's God. But when you read the story of the Bible is what people, especially the depressed people of the world, the people are sometimes doing so well and they're so disappointed in life, and they have everything that life can offer. The story of the Bible is what it really does here for us is that it simply tells us about how to overcome at great odds. You need this, I need this, and we need it on a daily basis, especially these stories. Now, the story of the crossing of the Red Sea into the Promised Land and the battles that they faced in the wilderness was simply a battle that the terrain was harsh. They were faced with temptations. As the Bible said, neither let us commit fornication, verse 8, as some of them committed and fell in one day, 23,000. So think about that. This is why the Bible is simple say, Paul later on say, hey, just go get yourself a wife and don't be falling with fornication. Just be faithful. It says here also that some of them were tempted and were destroyed by the serpent. Some of them murmured and they were destroyed also. Each time they were destroyed, think about it, they failed. You don't want to be that person that is going through this experience where you're murmuring, you're complaining, and you're failing. Don't be a failure. That to me is a story of life. Don't be a person that's a murmurer. That's the story of life. Because remember, if anything will go wrong, it will go wrong. So just understand and know that things will go wrong. And you fight the battles. And when you fight the battles, you will win. And you will come out victors. Because guess what happens? You're going to meet with difficulties. And you just have to know that, say, okay, I'm trying to get to point, B or C. And I just run into two obstacles. I'm still going to get to the point I need to get to. But it's going to make it harder for me. Anytime you set on a journey, just realize the journey is always going to be harder. I don't care if you're working on a project, if you're trying to get somewhere, if you're trying to overcome a weakness in your body, an addiction. The journey is going to be hard. You're going to face with harder obstacles that you can imagine when you set out. Just go right in ahead and start fighting those battles. We close on this quick reading here. And this is from 5 Testimony, page 136, written by Ellen G. White. It says here, when the religion of Christ is most held in contempt, when his law is most despised, then should our zeal be the warmest and our courage and firmness the most unflinching. To stand in defense of truth and righteousness when the majority forsake us, to fight the battles of the Lord when champions are few, this will be our test. At this time, we must gather warmth from the coldness of others, courage from their cowardice, and loyalty from their treason. The nation, and so we stop there. So this is a time when we should gather. So when you're fighting the battles of life, and you feel people are cold, you feel people are coward, you feel people will sell you out, you understand that when they do this, you get stronger. You use that as your fuel. If you do that, you're going to continue to win. You're not going to be a loser in this life. We don't want to be a loser, whether it be mental, spiritual, physical, social. We want to win on all fronts because we are called to be winners. We are called to be overcomers and to be champions. Let us pray. We thank thee, O Lord, again for thy love towards us and the blessings, dear Lord, of knowing thee, the only true God. We pray, dear Lord, that as Christ has overcome, that we too may be overcomers, and we may fight the battles each day that thou givest to us. May you be with us and bless us and give us strength. in the inner man. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Media. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning about the importance of church. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.